Pope Francis prays for peace for violence-torn Nicaragua.
Per l'amato popolo di Nicaragua.
The Holy Father speaking at his weekly Angelus address at the Vatican. The Pope says he's supporting bishops in mediating the country's divisions. Nicaragua has been rocked by political fighting and violence. Vatican correspondent Juliet Linley joins us from Rome. Juliet, give us an update. What's happening in Nicaragua?
Jason, more than 180 people have died in recent months in Nicaragua as protesters are seeking to oust the socialist president, Daniel Ortega. Now, the violence has practically brought the country to a standstill as police forces are clashing with opposition fighters. And meanwhile, here in Rome, in St. Peter's Square, on Sunday during the Pope's Angelus, you could see banners being held up calling for peace in the country, saying things like SOS Nicaragua, and you could also see pilgrims holding aloft Nicaraguan flags.
I know one of the country's cardinals met with Pope Francis about this whole situation, and I know the bishops are doing having a key role there. What exactly are they doing in Nicaragua?
Well, indeed, Jason, our colleague from EWTN Noticias, a Spanish-speaking colleague, Álvaro de Juana, interviewed Cardinal Leopoldo Brenes here in Rome. And Brenes wanted to make it very clear that the bishops in Nicaragua are not trying to get involved at a political level. He said none of them are trying to get into government and none of them are trying to run for office or create a political party. He said that they had delivered a document to President Ortega in which they were simply trying to reflect the needs and desires of the people. He said the bishops want to simply be witnesses and help in mediation, but not get involved politically. Now, just as a side note, Jason, Cardinal Brenes was in Rome for the consistory last Thursday, which is the ceremony during which Pope Francis created 14 new cardinals last week, 3 of whom come from Latin America, from Bolivia, Peru, and Mexico.
And I know Nicaragua wasn't the only country the Holy Father talked about yesterday. Tell us what other countries did he talk about?
That's right, Jason. He prayed for peace between Eritrea and Ethiopia. As we know, there's been a slight warming in relations between the two countries from the Horn of Africa. And he also turned his attention to the Middle East. And he said that he hoped for the suffering of the Syrian people to let up after all this time. And he also added that on Saturday he will be heading for the southern Italian city of Bari, where, as we know, Jason, the relics of St. Nicholas are preserved. And it is a pilgrimage of peace and unity, where he will be meeting the leaders of the churches and the Christian communities of the Middle East, including, Jason, Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople.
In Bari, Italy, I know very well. My great-grandfather came from there, and we have a very strong love and devotion to St. Nicholas. So, Juliet Linley, thank you so much. EWTN News Nightly's Vatican correspondent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.